Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of All That I've Learned from Tony Robbins over the years. It's early morning. I'm down here at the International Passenger Terminal, and it's looking like it's going to be an absolute cracker of a morning. And what I'd like to do is just to continue along our path of learning, growing, and attaching the unknown to the known, which essentially is the art of learning. The art of learning is basically taking what you know and then simply attaching the other stuff to the stuff that you know. And as you can see here on this beautiful, peaceful morning, we've got a cruise ship coming into dock, which is going to add to the experience. We'll see the sunrise coming up, and we'll see this ship called the Pacific Adventure, I think it's called, and they'll be docking up here shortly and see where it leads us. So one of the key messages from UPW and from the books that Tony Robbins writes and the tapes and material that he has available is the most important thing is to achieve lasting change. Not just change for the sake of change, but to have change that is lasting. And in order to do that, we need to condition ourselves, we need to condition responses so that they can become instinctive reactions, so that when a certain stimuli is introduced, we automatically do what we have to do to get the outcome that we have desired and thought worthy of being able to pursue. But he says that what happens to most people is that fear takes over. The sense of fear is what holds people back and doesn't allow them to express and to enjoy the fruits of their life and their ability to get what they want. And a lot of people give up. Tony Robbins reminds us that life has many humps in the different roads that we take, and we need a certain amount of momentum, a certain amount of self-imposed direction and intention to be able to get over those humps in the road. And you need to build your own confidence. You need to build your own certainty, because life won't give you certainty, that's for sure, because life is constantly changing. And the only thing that we could actually do to create certainty in our own lives is to be certain in ourselves, to be certain in our goals, to be certain in our abilities and our commitment to excellence and our commitment to getting things done. And Tony Robbins says that a lot of people are confused, enter self-doubt, and that's the biggest problem that most people face because of this self-imposed doubt, this confusion. And we know that nobody's been to the future, that's for sure and for certain. But one thing that we can bank on is that whilst people haven't been to the future, a a lot of people have patterns, or if they have experienced things in their past which is similar in pattern to what we're doing today. For example, the captain of this ship here, he may not have been into Sydney Harbour before, but for sure and for certain he's been to other harbours, to other ports which are similar to Sydney Harbour. I'm sure that he's been able to simulate and do simulation exercises on the different ports, and to have instructions and knowledge of how to get down here and how to dock up in the most efficient and effective way. It's called experience, and experience you can learn through your own trial and error, or you could learn from other people through simulation, through reading books, by talking to people who have done it before, and by just using your own common sense, which is important in today's world, where common sense is something that not very many people tend to use anymore. So another key point that I got from my investment in time studying Anthony Robbins is that Anthony Robbins says that people know things or do things, study things, but they don't really know it. The key message that he says here, that people understand things, is what he says, but they don't know it. They read the theory, they do the homework, but they still don't know it. They still don't get it. So one of the key messages from Anthony Robbins and the material that he presents is that you've got to be able to know it. It's not just good enough having read hundreds and hundreds of books. You need to implement it. You need to use it. You need your body to be able to have been infused by the experiences of doing things, so that when a situation arises, you know what to do, and you've been there before in your mind's eye, or through the experiences that you've gained, as we mentioned before, through trial and error, or the experiences that you've gained by learning third hand from somebody else who has done it. So, as we said, there are lots of people who have cognitive understanding, know it all, but haven't practiced it. And the big lesson, the big opportunity that Anthony Robbins provides people is to invite them to take action and to be practicing what they're doing, to actually take action, because it's it's through taking action that you get beyond the fear. You've got to take that first step, and once you take that first step, then it's easy to take the second, third, fifth, 100th, 1000th step. You know, every journey begins with the first step, and we need to once again encourage ourselves and to realise that we need to be action oriented as opposed to just word oriented. We need to be able to do things as opposed to talk about things, because if you spend too much time talking about things, what happens, and this is a really powerful point, is that you convince yourself that you've achieved that experience by just talking about it, because we've learned that the human mind, human brain can't tell the difference between things that are actually experienced and things that have been fully and vividly imagined. So if you've got a vivid imagination and you think and talk about things as if you've done it, then there are two advantages, or there are two things that can help you. Yes, it can help you manifest it, but by the same token, it can also allow you and trick you into dropping your guard, thinking that you've already done something that you haven't really achieved. So once again, the key message today is it's not enough to understand something from a cognitive and an intellectual perspective. You've got to practice it. You've got to walk the talk, is what a lot of peak performance coaches tell people. And we mustn't ever just settle for what we currently have, but to continue to push ourselves to grow, develop, and fine-tune through practice the things that we've got happening in our world. The other thing that Anthony Robbins talked about at the recent seminar is how our brain fills in the gaps. And it can be done in a positive way, or it can be done in a negative way, but it's happening all the time because the brain, as we said, it adds, it deletes, it manipulates, it distorts, it does a lot of things, and those things can be to our advantage or to our disadvantage. It's up to us to try and figure it out. But he gave an example there that when you speak to somebody on the phone, and it's happened to me time and time again, it's amazing that you can make a mental picture of the person based on the way they sound on the phone. You know, you can make them look attractive, or smart, dumb, tall, short, fat, thin, depending on their voice. And when you actually meet them in person, many of the times they are completely different to what you had imagined. It's just absolutely phenomenal just to think that the brain can be so ingenious that it can fill in the gaps and create a visual of a person just because of the voice and just because of the assumptions and what we think that they may look like. So once again, Anthony Robbins goes on to talk about the fact that as humans we all have a thing called free choice, and we need to condition ourselves and know that the conditioning process that we engage in and we perform is an ongoing process. It's a process that we need to continue to hone and to work for the entirety of our lifetimes. And we're responsible for our conditioning. We're responsible for the things that we read. We're responsible for the things that we think about. We're responsible for the things that we watch on television, who we hang out with, how we interpret the things that are happening in our world. And we need to take personal ownership of all of those things, and not just to be a spectator in life, but to be the participant, the captain, the coach, the orchestrator, the conductor, to take full responsibility, knowing very well that we're going to make good decisions, we're going to make bad decisions, but all of those decisions are based on our ownership of our station and our present moment in life. So Anthony talks to us about change and how to condition ourselves and how to create lasting change. But in order to have lasting change, there are three things that need to be in place in order to achieve that. There are three beliefs for lasting change. And the first belief is that this must change now, and no, we can't go through life talking later on about should've, could've, would've. We need to take action, and we need to try and convince ourselves that action needs to be taken now. And the whole concept about doing it tomorrow is deadly, and we've learnt over the years that when you leave it to tomorrow, nothing ever happens because something else will always get in the way. So this concept of must, and I remember Anthony Robbins saying back in 94, 95 when I attended the UPW, you've got to convince yourself of the following. If something has to change and you say to yourself that you can't change it for whatever reason, you've got to turn your can't into a must. You'll find a way as long as you create and ask yourself the right questions and create the right conditions around you. If you say to yourself, I'll try and do it, guess what? You'll never get to do it. It's got to become a must in your world. It's got to be a must in your life. And it not only has to be a must, but it has to be a must do and a must change now. You need immediacy as well. So you need to have, it must change, this must change now. You must also have I must change this now. And the third element, the third belief that you need to have incorporated is that I can change this now. So if you have those three beliefs are going to help any person get the best outcome they can, because they grow and they mature. And the reason why they grow and they mature is that they're not relying on anybody else to make the changes required. They take ownership of that responsibility and make it theirs. And once you make it yours, then you will find a way. Humans are teleological in nature, meaning that they love having problems. They love dealing with problems. Not everybody, but based on how we're wired, we're really, really good at it. All you have to do, of course, is to embrace it, to want it, and to make it yours, as we said before. But what holds a lot of people back is the thought that they won't be able to achieve it. And this is where Anthony Robbins reminds us once again that past failures do not equal your future. Just because you haven't been able to do it in the past doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to do it today or tomorrow. It may not have been the right conditions. It may not have been the right timing. It may not have been, the right state that you are in. But as we know, we all have different fates, and just because you couldn't do it yesterday doesn't mean if you knock on that door today, it's going to happen. Over the years, I've had lots of recruitment consultants call me to try and convince me to go and work somewhere else. And I'd always be saying no, I'm really happy where I am. I'm a sort of person who tries to be loyal, or I try to honour loyalty to an employer, to a team, to a partner. It's just my very nature. So I often say I often used to say, no, thank you very much, not interested. But one day I had this recruitment consultant who was very, very consistent and persistent, and he'd call me time and time again. And one day he calls me, and he called me at the right time, because I was feeling down. I was feeling a little bit pissed off with my employer. I think I'd probably gone through a performance review, and as all performance reviews, they start off with saying, oh, you know, you're great, we love you, blah, 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 blah. And then you wait for the but. And then the but starts, and then they start talking about things that you can improve. And many of the times you just feel unappreciated during those moments. And I felt a little bit unappreciated, underloved on the day that the recruitment consultant called me. And I said to him, yeah, I am interested. Set me up with an interview. And I went to the interview and actually got the job and left that job that I had. Even though I enjoyed that job, loved the team, it was a moment. The point that I'm trying to make now, it's a moment. And as we say, we all have a fate, and we all have different fates. And just because it didn't work, or just because somebody wasn't interested tomorrow, it doesn't mean that when you call them next, they'll be half in the market. I remember doing a marketing course years ago, and they're saying that, and the same thing will happen with this yes and no vote tomorrow. There are people who are obviously always going to vote yes. There are other people who are obviously always going to vote no. But there's a group in the middle who are undecided and need to be convinced. And what the marketing people say is that you need to try and identify who the people are that are in the middle, the people who are uncommitted but are in the market. And they're the ones that you need to focus your efforts on. And I think this is where Anthony Albanese and this whole Yes campaign is going to fail, and fail miserably, because they haven't catered for this group of people who are in the middle, who need to be convinced, are in the market. They're happy to vote yes, they're happy to vote no, but they need a why. They need a compelling why. What's in it for them? And this is where the campaign has failed miserably, because they can't answer that question, they can't identify, they can't tap into those people and make it happen. So, and once again, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? I think it's pretty obvious that it's going to be a landslide no vote, and it's going to be unfortunate, because what's going to happen is that Australia, the brand image of Australia, will be tarnished. The image, the brand Uluru, will be forever tainted, stained with failure. And Australians, sadly, will be targeted and viewed as being racist. But the bottom line is that Australia is not a racist country. I've grown up here. Of course, it's not a perfect country, but it's a lot more perfect than any other country. And it's a vibrant, multicultural, multi-ethnic society that gets on with each other. We have our ups and downs, but generally, as a rule, it works, and it's worked really, really well. But sadly, other people are going to look at Australia and think that we're a bunch of racists, we're a bunch of bigots, we're uneducated, we're Neanderthals, where nothing could be further than the truth. All we want is a reason why, to understand why and how it's going to benefit all of Australia, given that we do have a successful democracy, given that we have spent billions of dollars on Aboriginal affairs. Over the past 25 years, I think Australians, through the tax system, have invested $1 trillion. And the big question is, where has all that money gone? You know, there's this big funnel where money is poured into, and it only trickles out the end to the regions where the Indigenous people actually need it, which is sad, because as we're saying, you know, we don't have a problem giving money through our taxes to help people and to make Australia a more egalitarian society where all people benefit, all people can grow and develop, all people have access to health, education, and all the services that make for a great life. But you can have all the systems, all the services in the world, but the most important thing for people is to take ownership of their lives, of their communities, of their world, and to take action and to be active and responsible and participate in their own rescue. You can't make it happen for other people just because you're middle class, just because you think you're educated, and just because you think you know what is right for other people. And it'll take time, and I guess the damage that's going to be caused by this no vote tomorrow, and I'm saying the no vote's not going to be cast because people hate Aborigines. It's just going to be because there isn't a good reason. There isn't a reason, a convincing reason, a solid why as to why it should be included in the Constitution, given that we've failed miserably to date. And it's a partnership. You know, on the one hand, the government has failed, but on the other hand, the Indigenous communities have failed themselves by not getting on board, by not getting their people educated. I'm not saying that they're not all educated, but I'm just saying to consistently educate the children and get them working and get them engaged in society. There's a ratchet effect. Society won't go back, can't go back to the past. We need to continue to move forward, to step forward. It's called progress, and you can't progress when you spend all your time sitting in your past. You can't progress when you've got all your effort, all your focus in things that have happened in the past. It's depressing, and psychologists will tell you the people who are most depressed are the people who are spending most of their time living in their past. The past has happened. The past is not our responsibility. We weren't there. We didn't make decisions back then. We're here and now. And we're all going to live a different present and a different future. But we need to take action. We need to change ourselves. And as my mother used to say, regardless of which government comes in, you still have to work. You still have to go to school. You still have to eat right and exercise. Because if you don't look after yourself, nobody else can look after you as well as you can look after you. So don't wait for other people to make your life better when the responsibility and the action is on you. So once again, we just need to keep on going with our lives and not feel guilty for whatever happens, because as the politicians, the great politicians of the world say, once a community gets to vote, and they do vote, then that's the voice of the people. That's the voice of the majority. And the way society works, the way democracy works, is it's the voice of the majority. And we need to listen, we need to respect, we need to action the voice of the majority, because when the majority are helped and actioned, then they can become more generous to help other people. But you first need to help and to get the support of the majority, and to give them what they desire, and to give them the certainty that they need in order to live their lives. You know, the past year that Albanese has been in government, all of his efforts, all of his focus has been on everything which is not aligned to what the majority want. We've got a cost of living crisis that is causing grief amongst Australians, all Australians, of which Albanese has been missing in action. There are so many things. There's the economy, there's the housing crisis. There are so many things that need to be sorted out and focused on, and yet Albanese has decided to focus on identity politics at a time when there are more important things in the world that need to be done. Whilst it might sound terrible and it might sound mean on my behalf, you know, there are priorities, and you know, the voice isn't the priority at the moment for the majority, the vast majority of Australians who want to make sure that their tomorrows are looked after, I guess is the best way of saying it. So getting back to what we were saying before, we need to create a certainty in our life, and the only certainty that we can create is the belief that we have, that compelling belief that will push us, pull us, cajole us, and get us to where we need to be. And to make sure that we understand that there are a lot of these irrational fears, irrational beliefs that we have in our world, fears that are not real, and even through these campaigns we've had on both sides, fear-mongering and statistics used that are abused, saying certain things to emotionally blackmail people into voting either way, is a bit of a manipulation, but it's always happening in our lives, it's always happening in our world. So I think I'll leave it there for now. So we've gone for about half an hour. It's been quite interesting. I love going through and doing this program, this dedication to Tony Robbins, based on all the material that I've been able to enjoy over the years and to make the most of. Take care, wishing everybody the best. It's going to be, as I said before, a cracker of a day. Let's make the most of it, and we'll chat again soon. Bye for now.